Hello, you strong and steady centaur. Welcome back to the Collective Practice Podcast. I'm Lauren Spalding, and this is a podcast for mental health professionals where we talk clinical skills, business strategies, and addressing your own mental health. Today, I want to talk about mindset as a mental health entrepreneur, specifically why you shouldn't have a plan B. Now, it can be very comforting to think of a fallback plan or to even think about what you need in place in order to eventually create your private practice goals. However, oftentimes when we set a plan B, we're actually setting limitations around our long-term goals. And I want you to consider having a different mindset instead of thinking that you need a fallback plan. The second you can learn how to drop a fallback plan, you're going to notice a shift in your energy where you are going to be a lot more motivated and a lot more successful at reaching those private practice goals. And I'm not just saying that, okay? I'm saying that from experience. This is not theory. I spent about 4 years as an associate. So I had my LMFT associate license and my LPC associate license. And if you're in another state, that's licensed marriage and family therapist and licensed professional counselor. Those are 2 licenses that you can hold in Texas. Now, I got my LMFT license right before I had my daughter. And then I had to take maternity leave. And when I came back from maternity leave, I basically felt like I was kind of starting over. And it took me a little while to build momentum again and and get new clients on my calendar. And then it took me roughly another year to finish out my LPC hours. I know I'm a weirdo. I got my LMFT before my LPC. That was, a really unique situation. But as we know, especially in Texas, I don't know how it is in other states, it's the LPC license that does hold you back from being able to open your own private practice. So I was in group practice settings, and that was obviously needed while I was an associate. However, when I was in that final year and starting to think about my own plan, I started to convince myself that this plan B of being in a group practice was fine, that it's good because I was getting consistent referrals, which I actually wasn't getting that many referrals from the group practice. Most of my referrals were coming from my own marketing, but I was convincing myself that there was this safety bubble that wasn't actually there. And I convinced myself that I'm probably making roughly the same amount as someone in private practice. The group practice I was at had pretty good percentages that they were splitting with you in terms of what you made per client. And I just kind of fell back on that, of the sense of I'm already doing it, so it's fine. I'll build my practice this way, and then when someday I'm comfortable, I'll go into private practice. There were circumstances that led me to start considering private practice again. And I reached a point where I told myself, it's just going to be too much. And it does feel like I need to move into private practice, but maybe now is not the best time. Well, thankfully, I have a stellar work wife. She is just my best friend, and we met in grad school, and we've had just a really tight bond throughout going through grad school, going through our associate licenses, and then coming into private practice therapists. And one day she said, send me one of your paychecks. I'm going to take your gross and I'm going to show you what you could be making if you were in private practice. And I thought, I know it's going to be different, but it's probably not going to be that significant. It was a number that I couldn't ignore. But I felt still unsteady because I felt like, well, but I just got these new clients and they're not really settled, and what if they don't continue with me? And I'm finally feeling more settled into my calendar. It's again just like letting the plan B wash over me and convincing myself But my private practice dreams of having a co-working space, of supporting other therapists, were just too far away, and it was just too much to wrap my brain around. But I really made an effort to actually challenge these thoughts rather than just settling into the comfort zone. And I don't mean that I wrestled with them and just tried to convince myself to run off the cliff despite my fears. Instead, I sat with my fears, and I really sat with these different concerns or these different ways I was convincing myself not to move forward, as if I had a team and we were all sitting around the conference table and I was saying, all right, team, help me understand. And when that initial thought was, well, I'm just afraid that if I go into private practice, not every client's going to follow me. Well, what's the fear underneath that? And then what am I afraid would happen if that happened? And then what? And then what? Until I got to what felt like a core fear that was motivating these thoughts. And that brought a lot of clarity, because most of the fears were not necessarily irrational, but they were definitely catastrophizing and very much worst case scenario. And I recognized parts of me that I was really neglecting by giving into these fears. The part of me that has always wanted to teach and consult and support therapists, especially therapists with marginalized identities. That aspect of my passions was not going to be able to get attention until I was creating my own business plan and creating my own private practice around my values. And recognizing different things around that, different avenues of my mind that were being a little bit pushed down because the fears were so big. So addressing your limiting beliefs is incredibly important when you notice that you're falling back into a plan B. Now, I don't claim that because I did that exercise frequently, suddenly I was just the most confident person in the world. But I will say that it helped me to feel more in control of the anxiety, and it helped me to feel more confident to work with my fears, to hear them and validate them, and to also continue to make a plan to move forward. And what happened when I let go of plan B and when I jumped into plan A without everything being perfect was I leaned into being heavily motivated to be successful in plan A. There was no longer a plan B option. That meant I put so much more effort and energy into marketing. I put so much more effort and energy into getting clients on my calendar. I was feeling creative and motivated enough to start exploring and giving time and energy into other aspects of my business. I went into private practice last October 3rd, 2020. And the reason I remember that is it's Erin Samuels Day. Come on, Mean Girl fans, you know what I mean. It's October 3rd. And I am less than a year into my private practice, and I have already hit substantial goals. I am already hitting goals that are really important milestones for my bigger future plans. And I already have developed so much more confidence as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and as a working from home navigating COVID therapist. All of those different character qualities around what we do have grown in confidence, have grown in motivation and inherent wisdom, and have helped me to continue to push in ways that I don't think would have happened if I stuck with plan B. Now, I don't want you to just take my word for it. If you listen to other podcasts about financial freedom, about being an entrepreneur, about going into business for yourself, anything around like this type of work lifestyle where you're not taking a salary, where you're on your own and you're working for yourself. If you listen to any podcast like that, likely you will find at least one episode, if not more, of that person talking about how you should not have a plan B, how having a plan B is going to make reaching your goals go so much slower, and it's going to be so much more difficult. Is that a sentence? Let's say it is. It's going to be a lot more difficult to achieve those goals than if you were to just jump in. Now, you don't want to just jump in when financially it doesn't make sense. Of course, you don't want to do that. If you are still making ends meet, it might not feel okay for you to jump in. It might, though. Some entrepreneurs work really well that way, where they were like, it was me not making a ton of money that led me to just jump and go. And if you have that mindset, I encourage you to lean into it. But if you have a mindset of, I need some sense of safety to take the leap, then I want you to consider your bottom line. Because the thing is, if you keep saying, I just need some sense of safety, and you're not keeping a budget and you're not having that like true self-awareness on where you're at financially, and you're just going day to day, we can constantly feel like we don't have financial security. And I know this to be true. I have known people who are well into six figures who still feel like they're not making enough money. A few years ago, I think it was Forbes magazine did a survey with people that are the 1% making millions of dollars and asked them what point they would feel like they're financially secure. And so many of them said like millions more than they were making. Like if they were making 4 million, they're like, well, when I'm at 8 million, I'll feel secure. If they were at 8 million, they're like, well, if I get to 12 million, I would feel secure. And that's the problem, is if we are not realistically setting like, this is the number. Once I hit this number, I'm going into private practice. Our life is just going to continue to build. We're going to sign up for streaming softwares. We're going to buy nicer groceries or get nicer clothing and not really think about it. And so that safety net of once I get to this feeling of safety is never going to actually happen. So instead, I encourage you to, one, budget and see what you're actually doing with your money, but two, think about what your bottom line is. When I can make my bills and put a little bit towards emergency savings, I'm going into private practice. That should be your safety, and that's it. When you hit that, boom, it's time to reach your goals. It's time to take the leap. And that little bit of risk is what's going to keep you really motivated in those first few years of business. And I will tell you, when I went into private practice, I was near a full calendar. And I thought that was my safety net. I thought, okay, most of these clients will follow me. Even if a few drop off, it's going to be okay. What happened was, near the holidays, a ton of people dropped off. There were all of these extenuating circumstances where a lot of my clients had to either pause therapy or terminate altogether. But again, I leaned into it. All right, less clients means more time for online marketing. Let's beef up my profiles. Let's network. Let's get out there. Let's get this calendar full again. And I was able to do that. It really reflects the difference of when I was in a group practice and when I was sitting in my plan B. Now, for some of you, that's not your plan B. For some of you, you're like, I'm just looking for success, but I want to stay at my group practice, and that's fine. But I'm speaking to, if you have any goal beyond what you're currently doing, you need to consider jumping into that goal. And if your hesitancy is, I couldn't financially make that leap, then again, think of what your bottom line is. And once you hit that bottom line, it's time. That is the only exception I will say to making that leap is, of course, you have to meet your basic needs. If you don't meet your basic needs, it's not going to be possible to tap into creativity and curiosity as a new business owner. But if the financial security is not actually there, if it's a perceived financial security and you're actually fine, or if the fears are around anything else of catastrophizing, like, but what if all my clients drop off? Or what if blah, blah, blah? What if blah, blah, blah? If anything we've learned from COVID is we can't plan everything out and that our services are needed. Lean into that. You are valued, you are worthy, and it's time for you to reach those goals. At least start the stepping stones to move towards those goals. You can do it, and you deserve to believe in yourself that you can achieve this. Okay, that's everything I wanted to say today. I just really, really wanted to speak into this experience because it's a really important one. It's something that we could be passively leaning into without realizing how much we're holding ourselves back from our timeline, from the goals that we have in our head. And I really want you to think about where you're at as far as limiting beliefs and really start to unpack and explore those and see how valid they actually are, and if there's any inkling of challenging those fears even just a little bit. Because you have so much to bring to this community, you have so much to offer to your clients, and I believe that your private practice can be beyond successful, beyond what you imagine your dreams to be. Be sure to check out all of the resources I provide for you about private practice, and I have a very exciting thing coming up for you that I'm creating that's going to be a starter pack for private practice and all of the things that you need to create a really successful first year in business. And I'm talking 6 figures before you hit that first year anniversary. That's my goal for you, and I'm really working hard on creating very, very affordable courses that you can purchase that's going to help you launch that in a really impactful way. So be on the lookout. If you're not on my email list, be sure to join it, because that's probably going to be one of the first places where I announce that it's available. And it's very easy to access my email list. Just go to my website, laurenspalding.co, and there will be a pop-up that's like, sign up for the masterclass. And signing up for the masterclass is going to get you on the email list. Or you can scroll to the bottom of any of the pages on my website, and there's a sign up there as well. I hope that you do decide to invest in yourself and start to lean in to all of the amazing things that you want to do. Thanks so much for spending time with me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. As we wind down from this episode, take a moment to reflect on your key takeaways. How can you care for your business and yourself this week? Don't forget, you are awesome and worthy of a hugely successful career. I hope to help you and support you along the way. I'll see you in the Collective Practice Facebook group and in the masterclass. Visit laurenspalding.co for more details. Talk to you soon, friend.